came to us about 6 months ago. Winter 2022, first part of 2023, I believe. This came out of Rankin County, Mississippi. Do you guys remember this story? It was such a horrific story. It was almost unbelievable that it occurred in 2023. But there were two black men, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Terrell. Hold on, let me get the article. Eddie Terrell. What was Eddie's name? And this happened in Rankin County, Mississippi, where these two black men had their home invaded, basically, by Rankin County Sheriff's deputies. They tased them repeatedly. These black men were tortured. They were waterboarded. They were tased. They were sexually assaulted. I'm sorry, content warning for police brutality, police violence, and the like. One of them, Michael Jenkins, was in fact shot in the mouth. And fortunately, both of the men survived. But it is alleged that the sheriff's deputies were attacking and torturing these two brothers and asking them repeatedly, did they date white women? And berated them with racial slurs, nigga, to be specific, and monkey, to be more specific. In big 21st century, 6 white cops felt it was their authority to break into the home of these black men, assault them, torture them, and leave them disabled and maimed. So I want us to pick up the story from, I think this is WAPT News out of Jackson. I gotta say, so this is the package, right? We always talk about the package. So this is the package. I hate to even say this, but I gotta be honest. Like, this is not a great package. It's not a great package. I'm loath to be overly critical of young journalists. I can tell, who are trying to get their shit together. But this young lady's narration was almost excruciating. She's very cute, very pretty, but it was hard for me to listen to her. It was hard to listen to. So anyway, damn, I don't want to taint and bias, but there is some information in here that I think is pertinent to the case. And then I have some additional reporting coming from the Mississippi Free Press. So let's check out the story of these 6 white sheriff's deputies from Rankin County, Mississippi, who have now pled guilty to numerous federal charges in connection to the torture and assault of 2 black men. Let's take a look.
A 6-month investigation of the torture of Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker has led 6 ex-law enforcement officers to plead guilty on civil rights violations and obstruction of justice.
Abusive law enforcement officers will not be tolerated in any of our communities, and we will pursue justice and accountability whenever and wherever police misconduct rears its ugly head.
Former law enforcement officers Brett Morris McAlpin, Jeffrey Middleton, Kristen Dedman, Hunter Elward, Daniel Updike, and Joshua Hartfield from the Rankin County Sheriff's Office and an ex-Richland police officer pled guilty Thursday morning in the torture and beating of Eddie Parker and Michael Jenkins, who was shot in the mouth. All 6 are charged with aggravated assault, home invasion, obstruction of justice, hindering prosecution in the first degree, and conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice, hinder prosecution. Federal officials said the former lawmen who called themselves the Goon Squad not only brutalized the 2 men, but they also tried to cover it up by planting evidence and lying to investigators about what happened.
They appear to be 6 of the dumbest cops in the history of Mississippi. This was a criminal plan orchestrated that the bottom fell out of it. These guys couldn't put a criminal act together if they tried to, and it's probably based on their education.
According to court documents, the former law enforcement officers used stun guns on the 2 men, waterboarded them before shooting Jenkins in the mouth and leaving him on the floor to bleed with no medical treatment. Rankin County Sheriff Bryan Bailey says the officers lied to him, and he is disgusted in disbelief of their behavior.
I'm sick to my stomach. I work, and I have 115 other deputies that do a good job. I've tried to build a reputation here, tried to have a safe county, and they have robbed me of all of this. By the actions of these few. This is a perfect example of why people trust the police. And never in my life did I think it would happen at this department.
Bailey continued to say that he will not resign, and he apologizes to the victims and their families.
I apologize to the victims, to the citizens of this county, and I promise you I'm going to do my best to fix it.
Bailey also says he plans to bring in an FBI firm to help review proper training along with other revisions. The sentencing for those men will be held in November. For now, I'm live in Jackson. Kennedy Cooper, 16, WA.
What is an FBI firm? Why do we, what? I don't even know what that is. He's going to bring in an FBI firm to help bring the sheriff's department into some compliance. What's the FBI firm? Does she mean the Department of Justice? See, sometimes these reporters just be letting shit slide. Like, these public officials just get to say whatever the fuck and nobody gets a follow-up question. Like, have y'all ever heard of an FBI firm? What is that? What is that? But anyway, circling back, I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise behind me between the train and Bagheera on her job. My deepest apologies, but let me get through this. So again, this is a story that happened this year, 2023. So it was January 23rd that Michael Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker alleged, well, they didn't allege because the cops admitted to the shit. Michael and Eddie was in their Brixton, Mississippi home when police invaded their house without a warrant and began to do unspeakable things to them. 13 federal civil rights charges. Now, I am, I guess, appreciative of the fact that the cops themselves did not force this. They did not take this to trial. They just entered a guilty plea. But did you see the Rankin County sheriff right there with all the white tears make it about himself? He said, they have fucked this up for me. I have tried to keep this county safe, and I am appalled at all of this police brutality. But let the attorney for Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker tell it that this kind of police brutality is, in fact, rather routine around Rankin County, Mississippi. In fact, but for Michael surviving a gunshot wound to the mouth, okay, this man was in intensive care for a substantial amount of time. He could not speak for a duration of time. He, I believe, had to have half of his tongue amputated. I mean, horrific shit that both of these men could have easily died after Michael being shot and not being given any care. There was no care rendered to Michael as he was bleeding. And Michael and Eddie themselves were both tased and waterboarded. Now, I don't know in which order what happened. It doesn't really matter, but I'm thinking if you're wet and someone tases you, more electrocution could occur than what is already given off by the taser by itself. I mean, these two men could have easily lost their lives. And here is the gag, everybody. But for Michael and Eddie actually surviving, it would have been the cops' word against everybody's word. Really against nobody's word, right? If these two men would have died, the police, those Rankin County sheriff's deputies, would have told the story from their lying ass racist fucking mouths, and it would have been all kinds of we fear for our life. It would have been planting of more evidence, planting of guns, planting of drugs, to sort of, got to sprinkle some crack to size it up. You know what I'm saying? We know how the police get down. But who trained them? Is this the kind of training that Joe Biden, the FBI, the DOJ, Congress, is this the kind of training that your local officials are clamoring for? 6 officers, six of them. Not one said, Hey, y'all, don't do this. Even the ones, I saw an interview with Michael Jenkins' mother, and she said it. Even the ones who didn't do anything, pop the article up for me, Will. Even the ones who stood around are just as guilty as the ones that assaulted and tortured her son. This is a there's again there's several things about this that I'm kind of flabbergasted about. I mean, the circumstances of the case by itself, but the speed at which this moved. This incident happened at the end of January. Michael and Eddie reported it in February, and here we are, August, and there's already guilty pleas. There's already a sentencing hearing scheduled for November. I wonder what made this particular case go so fast when so many of these police brutality cases, even and especially the ones that end in murder, sometimes take a year or better. Well, what do y'all think? What do y'all think made this particular case go so quickly? And to be honest, I really do not have an answer. I don't. Let me give y'all a little bit more information here. So this is according to the Mississippi Free Press. The Mississippi Attorney General's office has also filed state charges against the officers, including aggravated assault, home invasion, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit obstruction of justice. This is according to Attorney General Lynn Fitch, announced Thursday in a press release. So, in addition to the federal civil rights charges that these officers have already pled guilty to, 13 in total, they will be facing state charges from Mississippi itself, which, again, just thinking about Mississippi in its entire context, as one of going in Dixie, hooray, hooray, and down in Dixie, do live and die in Dixie, like the heart of slavery. Not to say that the heart of slavery was not in Georgia or South Carolina or North Carolina or anything like that, but when I think about that deep, deep, deep slavery, Jesus, Mississippi definitely comes to mind. And just think about how often and how many officers and victims of police brutality historically, let's say even post-slavery, how many times do you think that peace officers in Mississippi have gotten away with outright torturing Black people, murdering Black people, disappearing Black people? I would estimate it'd have to be in the thousands of officers and victims. Yes? Let's keep it at the thousands. let's keep it at the thousands, because my brain has a tendency sometimes to exaggerate things, but I don't think thousands is an exaggeration. The kicker is that the biggest surprise, I suppose, that the 21st century has brought us in some way is that there is at least a chance for cops to go down for murdering, assaulting, and torturing Black people. Because in the 20th century, nah. 19th century, no fucking way. 18th century, what 3/5 of human? What we talk about? You know what I'm saying? You can't get in trouble for torturing an animal, right? In the 1800s, whatever. But you guys understand my point. And I don't look at this as a celebration. This is not a celebration. It is accountability on some level. I hope these fucking pigs get inside of that jail cell. It must be repeated, even though we are here for the abolition of prisons and police. While we still doing jails, put these motherfuckers under the jail immediately and leave them there in perpetuity. I don't see how you get to come out after this. I don't see how these cops get anything less than a 20-year sentence, everybody. Like, I don't want to hear 10 years shit, because if it was a Black person, whoop, let a Black person, not even a police, let a Black person had kicked in the door of white folks in Mississippi, tied them up, tased them, waterboarded them, sexual assaulted them, shot them in the mouth. That's 50. That might be life. Like that black person is never coming out of that jail. And these cops need to feel this prison system the same way, if not more, because they themselves were sworn and duty bound to uphold the law. I feel as though police should be dealt more harshly in the legal system when they are convicted of violent crimes, especially crimes such as egregious as what was done to these two men. Like, the police need to have their sentences compounded because y'all supposed to know the law better than everybody. And most importantly, you are the ones paid with public dollars to enforce and uphold the law. So when you go out of your way to break it, when you not only break the law, but then go out of your way to try to lie and cover it up and obstruct justice, you should get more time. More. And because these officers were sworn under oath to protect and uphold the law, this sentence will be doubled. This 20-year sentence is now 40 years because you's a cop, you're supposed to know better. But that's the thing, they did know better. I think that was one of the gentleman's attorneys actually who spoke. And again, the package was a little lacking. Like, the people wasn't identified. I mean, they identified the sheriff, but I don't know who the man was talking. The lady, I could only assume she was from the Department of Justice. I mean, I could see the DOJ insignia behind her, but the journalist didn't identify her. And again, I don't want to be too harsh on the young lady because I do love black people. I don't want to be too hard on the young sister. But her editor or whoever her news director should have tightened that package up just a little bit. You could take that down, Will. We will come back to this story in November when these cops are sentenced, and we will see if the police receive a commiserate sentence to what a quote unquote regular citizen would, especially a black citizen in the state of Mississippi, had they committed similar offenses, similar felonies. We all know the answer to that.